This week on Merricks Garage, it is the Axle edition. Dana 60, Dana 44, 10 bolt, 12 bolt, 14 bolt. Which one's better? Which one's stronger? Which one's faster? The Achilles heel of the K5 Blazer has to be the half-ton axles that come with it in stock form. They don't hold up well to large tires and big power, and as a result, I broke a ring and pinion and a couple of axle shafts before I was able to source and buy these one-ton axles from a local guy here on my Craigslist. I threw them under my truck and started my build.
Well, I opened up a can of worms the other day when I did my video on the suspension because I did not address any of the downsides to going with larger tires, namely increased mass, increased weight, increased rolling resistance, increased effective torque and leverage on the drivetrain. There are so many things that you do need to consider before you go big. I'm not talking 35s and 33s here. This is more 37s and above mixed with some abuse. When you do start introducing that sort of driving and use into the vehicle, you're gonna end up with some issues in the axles. So hence this video. So I'm gonna address today what axles I consider to be your go-tos, which ones are plentiful, which ones are easy to find, what upgrades you should consider, and things of that nature. I am a firm believer in the old adage that cheaper is more expensive, especially when it comes to truck parts. So with that said, we are going to talk about some upgrades that may seem rather expensive up front, but if you do them the first time, you don't end up doing them again. So when I did my spring suspension tire swap, it followed on the heels of finding my one-ton axles. Finding my one-ton axles on Craigslist was what set me off on the journey. Without those, this may not have happened. They're the fundamental foundation for a solid build. It's where I got the name of the truck, K30 Blazer. K5 Blazer with the half-ton variety, K30 truck was the one-ton. I put the one-ton axles out of a K30 truck. There's your name. I recognize that there is a cost involved with going to the larger tires that we didn't address in the last video. By going to the axles, you're basically putting away any concerns about frequent breakage. Yes, you may still have some issues down the road, but it's unlikely and going to be nowhere near as prevalent as if you stuck with your one-tons, or quite honestly went up to a Dana 44 or a 12 bolt. So let's discuss the differences. The K5 Blazers came with a 10 bolt front and rear, a half ton. Not a bad axle by any definition. It's just not designed to be run with large tires and big power. There's inherent design characteristics that do not make it the best choice for big torque. With the 10 bolt, you have a much smaller ring gear than you do with a 14 bolt. The larger ring gear, the 10.5 ring gear found in a 14 bolt, will have a larger surface area to carry the load as opposed to the smaller diameter ring gear found in a 10 bolt. Everything is beefed up on the 14 bolt as opposed to the 10 bolt. The only downside to the 14 bolt, in my opinion, is the ground clearance. You do lose a little bit of ground clearance. Just go for a 14 bolt full floater. You can go to a 12 bolt, you can go to a 14 bolt semi-float, go for the 14 bolt full floater. The additional cost that you may incur is worth its weight, literally. You're going to get a much stronger axle, and these axles are plentiful. They are still being produced, they are still out there. You can find these things in junkyards for $100, $200. That's not where the cost comes in. The cost is going to come in when you jump over to the Dana 60, which we'll get to in a minute. The beautiful thing about the 14 bolts, besides their prevalence, is their beefy design. The 14 bolt full floater, for example, does not have a C-clip holding the axles in at the inner housing differential. What the full float refers to is the fact that the axle shafts themselves are carrying none of the load of the vehicle. They are purely for transmitting drive torque, unlike other axles which do carry the weight of the vehicle. In addition, should you for whatever reason break a 14 bolt axle, very easy to replace, very plentiful, very cheap, trail side repair, and you do not lose your wheel. You don't have to dig into the differential to get that C-clip out to remove that shaft. You basically just remove the bolts on the outside of the wheel lugs, pull the shaft out, throw a new one in. Incredibly trail friendly. A really clever design. Up front, we have the venerable Dana 60. This is a four-wheeling classic. It's been around since 1950 in tons and tons of different variations, different pinions, different driver side passenger drop, tons of different options. It's important for the square body trucks of this era that we find a passenger side drop. Unfortunately, these axles are becoming fewer and farther between. As a result, the prices have gone up quite a bit. Expect to spend, location dependent, anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000 on a front Dana 60. Some places are cheaper. I hear stories all the time of people scoring one for $300. Right on, I'm stoked for you. But the reality is, for most of us, this is going to be a big ticket item, as they are becoming very desirable and there's not as many left out there. The Dana 60 in itself is a bomber axle. Really robust construction, a superior axle to the Dana 44 in terms of strength and durability, but also comes at a premium with an increase in substantial weight. There are a couple things that we need to be considering when looking at a Dana 60. You want to make sure that you're getting a passenger drop pump in. The other variations that you'll see out there will be the ball joint Dana 60s. Not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but if you can find a Dana 60 with a kingpin, that is the one you want. The kingpin offers increased strength, increased reliability, and a decrease in the number of moving parts. They're a little bit more durable, but then again, ball joint technology has come so far.
I wanted a set of 1-tons for my truck for years and years before I found these. The timing was never right, they were too expensive, various things. I bought these, did a rear disc conversion, and that was it. They bolted right up and have been underneath ever since. When we are looking for these axles, a great place to start is with the military CUCV or CUCV. There's two varieties. There's the K5 Blazer and there's the K30. Both came with a diesel. Both are fantastic options. But the K30 is generally the one that we are after because it came with the 1-ton axles, the Dana 60 and the 14-bolt full floater. The US military actually designated these as 1.25-ton axles due to the load carrying specifications that they had. They are a direct bolt-in for the K5 Blazer. Spring purchase, bolt right up. The differential came with a 456 gear front and rear. You've got a limited slip up front and a Detroit locker in the back. They are the best turnkey solution that you can ask for. That said, they are difficult to find. Finding a matching pair is ideal, but it can be rather problematic to find them as this has become a very popular option for a lot of people, and they've all been gobbled up. You can still find them out there, but expect to pay top dollar. I've seen people asking $4,000 for a set, which is just ridiculous. For the record, 3 years ago, I found mine for $1,600, front and rear, and that came with high steer. In talking lockers and limited slip, what we are speaking about is essentially the ability of the rear differential to lock itself so that power is going equally to both wheels at the same time, instead of going to the wheel that is often slipping. Quick demonstration of a Detroit locker working. You'll notice the driver's side rear will give a little puff of dirt right there, As I get off the gas and get back on it, the torque will engage the locker, putting power to both wheels, pushing me up this hill in a locked fashion. It's just a short little hill, but a little bit loose, but with the locker, no drama.
One of the main benefits of a solid axle rig is that when traversing uneven terrain, as one tire goes up, it pushes the other tire down. It is an advantage over IFS that often goes overlooked. The additional benefit is, with that Detroit locker that locks up the rear axle, or whichever axle it's in, you're going to see power go into both wheels at the same time, instead of going to whichever wheel is demanding the load, which is why an open differential is essentially a no traction device in anything resembling a low traction environment. One of the overlooked advantages of going to a 1-ton axle setup is getting 1-ton brakes. Much larger rotors, much larger calipers, and great stopping power. I upgraded the rear of mine to disc also and got rid of the heavy drum brakes that come with it and upgraded to 3/4-ton calipers and rotors. A huge difference over stock and a massive difference over the 1-ton or over the half-ton brakes I had in here previously. And thank you all once again for watching another episode of Merricks Garage. I hope this was helpful to you guys. It was just a very quick dive into the 1-ton axle world. There's obviously tons of stuff I left out. Maybe in another video I'll jump into more detail into air lockers, limited slip, spools, you name it. There's a whole world of traction devices that I barely touched. So if you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up, shoot me a comment, or give me a subscribe. I love hearing from you guys, and I get tons of useful feedback from everybody. Also, if you guys can use my Amazon shopping list in the link down below, that is always helpful as it puts a little extra money in my pocket to help buy more camera gear. So hopefully I can fix this audio issue I'm having. So thanks for watching. I'll check you next time.